So it is 6:45 in the morning. Why would any sane man who's over 50 get up this early on a Saturday? It's a sickness. It is garage sale season here in Southern Ontario. I will say this is probably the first weekend. There have been one or two little early bird ones over the last couple of weeks. Didn't really get anything at them. But today, there's a church sale, and I just stopped at the place where, I don't know, does every town do this? But my town has, there used to be a tree in a churchyard. Sounds very gothic and romantic, but it's not. That's right on the corner of an intersection. And everybody used to staple their garage sale signs up to it, much to the chagrin of the church. But they were good about it. They didn't, stop people from doing it. Eventually, that tree got angry in its old age and started dropping branches, and the city made him take it down. And so they took it down, and I thought, damn, that's too bad, because that was a great place. You sometimes you go there, it'd be like 25 signs up on that poor thing. And sure enough, people started putting signs up in the corner lot of the lawn, and the church was nice enough to leave it. So today there are two out there, and then there is I probably said this, a church sale. So we're going to head to that. I also have a record pick to look at today, so we're going to give that a go as well. I probably won't be able to film inside the record pick. I'll try to get some filming at the garage sale, but if not, it'll be just a case of, hey, let's see what I got at the end. All right, let's go do the fun stuff. So this is my first garage sale find of the year. It is old ashtray. It's actually good. The base is brass, which is kind of interesting. Normally these things are chrome, but I got them over here at the church junk in the trunk sale. So that's a good start. Pretty happy with that. Paid 25 bucks, a little more than I would normally, but church sales. So garage sale number 2 is what I believe might be a Viking bird. Not 100%, I have to look at that. And then nice English Sheffield. I don't know if that's bone or Bakelite, probably Bakelite handled carving set. Normally I wouldn't touch them, but it was cheap. And then that's the rest of the garage set. Okay, so all these cars here, and the lineup of them back there. There's a garage sale back there. It said mostly tools, but I ended up getting some stuff. There's, I think, $6 for everything. An old green Ontario 69 license plate, which I believe the green means it was a pickup truck plate. Could be wrong on that. Nice old lock set. Brass on one side, glass on the other. I get asked for those all the time. And then these are just two little older cast iron pulleys, or just wheels, I guess they're not actually pulleys. I can sell wheels, especially cast iron stuff, all day long. So I forget what, maybe $7 for everything then. Yeah, that might have been it. I don't know. Either way, pretty happy with everything there. I think there's one more to go to. Let's go do that now. Okay, so obviously that's from earlier in the week. It's an RS Associates Teak coffee table. Needs a bit of cleaning. Only $15.99. But I just got back from a record pick and ended up getting all these cool things. And there's some other stuff up there, records and things. So we'll go inside and look these over. Okay, so we're back in the shop. And I showed you some brief scenes from my garage sale this morning. Not the actual garage sales. I still don't like filming people. I'm sure at some point I'll get over it, but right now I just sort of go do my shopping, because that's my primary thing. I tend to find when you're fiddling around with a camera, it just gets too hard to, especially for what I do, it's a lot of digging and flipping through crates and things like that. Can't do it with one hand. Yeah, I don't actually film at the things very often. But I did sort of show you some shots and just, I know, so people don't think I'm, you know, I don't know, faking it for the views or something, because I don't get enough views to really put that much effort into it. But here's some of the things from the back of the van. I picked this up this morning at a church garage sale. First of the year, it was junk in the trunk. Now, it was one of those things where I went up and asked how much, and she's like, we're just looking for donations to the church. And I'm like, okay, I'm never comfortable doing that. So I'm like, what do you think? And she was like, $40. And I'm like, no, that ain't gonna work for me. So I looked around. In the end, I came up to her and she's like, if you want to make an offer, I'm like, $20. And she said 25, and I was like, sure, $5 ain't gonna break me. It is, the base is brass, and for the most part fairly solid. You can actually see right there some more of the brass. Needs polishing. I don't do that. I leave it for the people who end up buying it if they want, because some people prefer patina, other people want things to look brand new. Me, I'm kind of a mix of both. But it's in fairly nice shape. The insert is original, I believe, because it fits perfectly. There's a bit of like surface rust on there. That'll just clean up with a bit of steel wool. I mean, most of the time these things I can get between 75 and 150, depending on each for these things. So, you know, pick that up. They're not selling as fast as they were a couple of years ago, when they seemed to become the big craze. Because here, for years, and I've been here for 20 years now, and I've told this story many times, I'm sure, on here. I couldn't give away ashtrays. Literally, ceramic table ashtrays, the stands like these, could not give them away. And then in Canada, where I'm located, they legalized pot. And all of a sudden, it took me ages to figure it out, because all of a sudden I had like 10 of these things sitting around, and they just started going. I used to sell them for $50 a piece, and they just started going. And I was talking to another dealer, and he clued me in. He's like, I'm like, hey, you ever notice that like those floor ashtrays are moving again? And he was like, Jay, they legalized pot. And I never even thought about it. That's how simple I am. So yeah, pretty good buy there. First purchase of the year, and pretty happy with that. Now, this was not a garage sale find. This was a Value Village find earlier in the week. For my American friends, and we're still friends despite the tariff issue. There are, Value Village is the same company as Savers in your fine country. So it's teak, nicer piece, a few tiny spots of veneer wear, but nothing crazy. The thing about teak that I tell everybody is, so long as you're not missing huge chunks and it isn't scratched completely all to heck, you can just hit it with a little bit of steel wool, take out most of the surface scratches, and then you can get teak oil over top of it, and it will shine like the day it was made. Now, the reason why I really went for this is, sorry, doing this with my hands here. Can we get down right there? There it is. RS Associates. RS Associates was a Canadian furniture maker, I believe, out of Montreal. And they did a lot of, in the 60s, particularly around 67, the Expo year, they did some really interesting tables. Their sort of floating coffee table, they call it, I believe it's called the Martini series, is a fantastic design. Used to be fairly common. Again, I've been doing this for, well, I've had the store for 20 years, but I've been doing it for longer than that. And I had about 4 or 5 at one point, and literally they were selling in the 100 to 200 range, depending on how nice the condition was. And the 200 was like, that was like a decent Toronto mid-century shop price, 25 years ago. Now I see them being listed in the thousands sometimes, which is crazy to me. But RS Associates did, those were the big things from RS Associates. They did a great dry bar too, which had a circular stand-up with a swing sort of hidden door. It was great. But yeah, I'll pick up anything by RS Associates. And this is a good size. It's weird. I don't know if it's a coffee table or a side table. It's a very small coffee table, which might be great if you've got a smaller size apartment. So yeah, that was a good pickup for 16 bucks. Plus I had a 20% off coupon. So I think all in it was 14 something. So pretty happy with that. I got some other stuff over there and the records in the other room, which I'm going to show you guys momentarily under better lighting. Okay, so I had to open the store, but so I might have to stop this video and start again. But we'll keep going over some of the stuff I got. The tobacco tins, there's what, like, I don't know, roughly, there's over 10 there. And they're not worth a whole heck of a lot of money. She said if I didn't take them, she was just going to recycle them. So I gave her $5 for the bin. So totally happy with that. This is one of those, maybe I shouldn't have bought it, but it just looks cool to me. And so what it is it's the Moffat Electro Pail, which sounds, you know, amazing. And it looks like it's going fast. It actually looks like a motorboat. And I think they designed it that way, motorboat motor, like an outboard motor. But it's not. And it could be used as like a really cool, like, mailbox even, which is what I'm thinking somebody could. But what you do is, if you have animals, or even if you just wanted to heat up water in a portable situation, this guy works. But you would put this inside the water bucket, and then that coil would heat it up. I've seen people who use them for horses and cattle, so that their water doesn't freeze up and the animals can still get a drink. It is a little dodgy, though, putting an electric thing inside a big puddle like that. When I was on the fire department, yes, I was a firefighter for, 8-9 years. We had a couple of barn fires that were started by similar kinds of things. So they're, you know, a little bit dodgy. I'm sure they're much safer today than they used to be. So, yeah, it was only $5. So I was like, whatever. I mean, you know what, $5. It's not going to kill me either way. And plus, there's something about the look of it. Just looks cool. So we'll come in here. How's that for camera work? And we'll look at some of the other stuff real quick. I used to avoid these like the plague. You couldn't do anything with the carving set, even the stag handle ones, that were bone handles. These are Bakelite. They sort of come back in favor lately. I don't know what it is. They're good quality knives. I don't know if we can get the thing on there. They're Sheffield steel, I think it is. Yeah, so really good quality knives, and probably sharp as all get out. These ones have, I thought it was like wear. Actually, it's just dirt, so they need a little polishing. But they're Bakelite handles. You got the carving knife, bread knife. There's your carver. There's your fork for holding your meat. And then 6 of the just steak knives, essentially. And they've kind of gone up in price. I mean, I've seen really nice sets selling for $65, $75 retail. eBay is a little lower, somewhere between $30 and $50, depending on how good the set is. This was only $5. The box is a bit rough. It is a cardboard box, not a wooden one. But still, you know, for $5, why not? These are really cool because that was from the one garage sale. I also got like a little blue bird, which I might have shown at the video in the car. I don't know where it went. It's sitting in the car someplace, I'm sure. It might be Viking glass or L.E. Smith. I'm not 100%. But it's a cool vintage little glass bird. It's a nice color blue. So these are great. People use them for decorator items. They're just cast iron. They would have wheels. They would have probably have been clothesline wheels, more than likely. Just because I'm looking at the width there on that. People use them to hang stuff from. You know, if you want to hang, like I've seen the guys who hang like signs and bicycles and all kinds of things from rafters. And you get some hemp rope and throw that through there, and they just look great. And yeah, you know, maybe you can use them for your clothesline too. This is a 1969 Ontario, because I'm in Ontario, Canada. License plate. a little more interesting than your average plate because it is green. And so that would mean it was for a pickup truck, because back in the day, you had different plates for different vehicles. So there's that, a little harder to find. Not in the best of shape. It'll clean up. Somebody will want it if they've got like an old square body or something like that. And then people always ask me for these, and I pick them up now. I didn't used to. This has the whole lock set with it, but the glass handles and the brass handle on the other side for things, just for decor, people pick them up. I think all that together was, I don't know, like $10 maybe. So yeah, pretty happy with that. But I ended up going, that was it for garage sales, which, you know, pretty good. You know, for first garage sales of the year. And it was raining too, so I wasn't expecting too much. But earlier, a lady had contacted me. She came into the store and brought a few records, which I bought off her. And then she said she had more at home, but didn't want to carry them all in. And I said, well, I can come out and look. And so we set Saturday. And so after I'd finished my garage sales, I headed over there. And, you know, there's some pretty good stuff. Again, no massive home runs. The condition on some is a little bit, some of them didn't have, and usually this is a sign that you're not going to get great condition, the inner sleeves with them. Even on those, they were still pretty good. They just had some sleeve scuffs, but no deep scratches. They weren't like you know, really beat up or left out or anything. They were always put back in the sleeve, but sometimes didn't have the inner sleeve with them. So we'll go through these now. That there is Mash McCann. They're Canadian sort of psych, bluesy, folky, proggy band. And it's the gatefold edition, first Canadian pressing on there. I don't have the record to pull out. Maybe I can see if I can do this with one hand just to sort of show you the label. And there you go. There's Columbia first pressing stereo. Pretty good record. Kind of a little harder to find, so that was a nice pickup. Beatles yesterday and today. This is on the Capitol Rainbow label, so it's an early pressing. I have to say this every single time I find this record, because everybody, as soon as I put it up, is like, dude, check to see if it's a Butcher. Canada didn't get Butchers. We didn't get the paste over. They did. There's been a letter written by the guy who's the head of Capitol, because he's been asked so many times, that yeah, there were like 4 or 5 mock-ups made, and they were never sent out to the stores. They were never put in the stores. Those have been sold into other collectors' collections over the years. Everybody, they're known where they all are. It's not something. So there are no true Canadian Butchers paste overs. If anybody ever tries to sell you this and it says right there, Litho in Canada, and says there's a Butcher cover underneath there, I can see the V. It's not. They just never were. There were no paste overs of the Butcher cover. It just came out in this cover in Canada like that. So there you go. Save yourself some money. If somebody's trying to sell you like a paste over Butcher from Canada anyways. Capitol Rainbow label. Copy of Rubber Soul. This one had a few marks on it, but it is in the original shrink. It's not terrible. It'll clean up actually pretty well. So you can see there. It's just really dusty, so that's a nice one. And it is a mono copy, and the shrink's still on there, although it is flopping around a bit, so I might get rid of it. Sometimes I do get rid of the shrink because it doesn't really add anything to it. This one doesn't have any stickers, price stickers. Beatles 65. This is one that'll probably end up in my collection because it's one of the last Leonard Cohen records that I didn't have. So that, show the back there of it. These are... yeah, these are the Canadian ones. So yeah, it's Show Pack Canada. Chuck Berry. Janis Joplin's Pearl. Monkeys. More of the Monkeys. This is a little later one compared to all the rest. I think this came out in like 85. It's Slade, Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply. Diana Ross and the Supremes, Love Child. Neil Young, Harvest. This is the matte textured cover. It is a Canadian first pressing, sadly, name written on there, but still pretty good. And it has the inner lyric sheet thinger. How's that for technical? Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. This is the one with the actual pasted on picture. So it is a Canadian first pressing again. Simon and Garfunkel, Paul Simon. BJ Thomas, a couple of BJ Thomases in there. Not great deal of value in that stuff. I always get asked for Gordon Lightfoot records. Jimmy Buffett, John Prine, John Denver, more John Denver, Gilbert O'Sullivan, Steppenwolf's Live. This is like Winchester Cathedral, and it's like on a Canadian, one of those bargain Canadian labels, ARC. But they put out some interesting stuff actually on ARC, so it's always good to check it out. Carole King, Kenny Rogers. There's a lot of country stuff. A lot of this will probably end up in my dollar bin, some of it anyways. That's the poster for the Chicago. God, that's such a good record. Willie Nelson, Pretty Paper. Oh, more Willie. I love me Willie. I love me some Willie. I really do. Willie and Chris. Stompin' Tom Connors. I've gone over him before in the past for my non-Canadian friends. Every Canadian should own at least one Stompin' Tom Connors record. Johnny Cash, more Gordy. This one sadly has some scratches on it, and it is a early pressing, probably a first Canadian. It'll probably play through, but it's definitely got some scuffs and stuff on there. Three Dog Night, Best of Ramsey Lewis, Cat Stevens, Carpenters, Annie and Glenn, more Gordy, James Taylor, Peter Paul Mary. I don't know why I'm telling you. You can read this. There was a lot of country, which I don't do that much with. Peter and Gordon, Pete Seeger. I just saw that Dylan flick, the Bob Dylan flick. I thought it was really good, actually. And I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan. I named my son Dylan, so, and his mother's name is Susie. Read into all that you want. But yeah, it was interesting to see how they cast Pete Seeger, and I think it was really well done overall. But this is a Pete Seeger record I don't have, so I might end up keeping that one for myself. Tea for the Tillerman, soundtrack to Coal Miner's Daughter, Peter Paul Mary, Olivia Newton-John, Jan and Dean. These are actually really good. They don't get the kind of credit that they should, because some of these have some decent tracks on there, like Crimson and Clover, and yeah, all the original hits by the bands. Tommy James, Johnny Taylor, the Ohio Express, the Turtles, the Guess Who's on there, and it's an early Guess Who because it's the one with the question mark at the end of it. And so yeah, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Eddie Floyd, and Boy Dukes. Yeah, these are actually quite good in terms of compilations. The Osmonds, Sonny and Cher, Danger, High Voltage. What's on this one? Is this a K-Tel? No, it's like a K-Tel copy record. That's like Alan Parsons, so it's like 70s light rock, 80s light rock. Lily Tomlin, Bob and Doug McKenzie, Cosby. Yeah, that actually looks like a pretty good country thing there. I love the guitar on this, man. It's a Mossrite, a double neck Mossrite. Are you kidding me? I just keep that just for that. And again, it's on that Canadian label. Maybe that guitar's kicking around somewhere in Canada. Ronnie Prophet and Michael Damian. So, yeah, I think there was 71 records overall. And again, she said the kind of thing, she's like, if you don't take them, I picked out what I want, and she's like, may as well take all the rest because they're just going to go to the dump. But I'm like, she's like, because that's where I was going to take them all. I'm like, well, we haven't even talked about price yet. Now you told me you were going to take them to the dump. So in the end, she just said $75. And I'm like, okay, fine. That's a hell of a deal by any stretch. Basically puts these in the dollar range. But if I didn't take them, they were going to go to the dump. So I'm pretty happy with what I ended up getting. Oh, yeah, and there's one other thing. I forgot about these. She also had, because she was asking me, that's where I got the tins and stuff from. Because when we were discussing coming over to see the records, yep, she said, oh, I got a bunch of old stuff. I'll drag that out too. And that was in there. It was these. They're really cool. Now, she said, same kind of thing. She didn't know what to do with them. She was probably just going to get rid of them. And I assumed that was, by get rid of means throw them out. And they don't look like much initially. They're glass. And upon closer inspection, I realized, hey, maybe these are actually Mercury glass. And that is the label there. Their X-ray is the name. And I think, where's the... Can't get it to focus on there. Curtis Glass Company. And it mentions Mazda, which I didn't see initially, but that should have given me a clue. These are actually quite old. And they're made of mercury glass. They were usually used in industrial settings more than anything else. And I always buy old shades just because you never know what lamp's going to come through the door that doesn't have a shade, and you can stick that on it. And there were 25 of these. Now, she said her husband... show you the inside there. That's the Mercury on the one side, and they usually painted the outside like this. Had worked at Bell Canada, and I guess they were getting rid of all of these. They've been around forever. They were the ceiling shades. So yeah, they would have been around for quite some time. And they're all labeled, and they're all really great. So yeah, I just picked them up because, you know, basically why not? And again, she probably would have thrown them in a garage sale, or just like, you know, worst case scenario, tossed them out, because people still do that. Like you've seen my dump videos where I go to the dump and I end up pulling amazing stuff out of there sometimes, because my local transfer station luckily has a recycling area where you can leave stuff behind that you think is better and should be going in a landfill, and other people can take it for free, and I take advantage of that. There's like 25 of them in there, and you know what? I don't know what they're worth. I'm not going to lie. I haven't dealt with this before, but I just got a feeling like, you can't leave them behind. So I was pretty happy to pick those up too. And yeah, worst case scenario, I get them for, you know, from now until basically there's 20 odd of them in there. The next 20 like period desk lamps that come in, I've got shades for them. So there you go. So pretty happy with that pickup. Pretty happy overall with everything. There's the ashtray that I got there too. So yeah, it's a good start. We'll go back and walk over here and have a look at the records one last time while I do my post-amble. Yeah, pretty happy with the start of garage sale season. Hopefully it keeps going like this. It's the one thing about living in Canada that's really tough, is that, you know, for 4 months out of the year, the weather's not going to allow much in the way for garage sales. So when it starts, I get pretty excited. So anyways, that's everything there. I hope you all are able to find some cool stuff yourself when you're out digging in the crates, or in old garages or barns, or just hitting up the garage sales. Bye.